Hi, my name is Bruce Wade, and welcome to the short weekly webinar where we're going to be chatting a little bit about the concept of I am, therefore I think. I want to focus today a little bit on some science, and some of you might think this is a little woohoo stuff, but it's all backed up by real science and science with repeatable experiments with repeatable outcomes and peer-reviewed. So let's go and dive into a little bit of where we are affected and how we are affected in our brains and our bodies as we go about our everyday life. So the thing I want to ask you to consider is, have you ever considered what you put into your body? Now, there's the old analogy that says garbage in and garbage out. And that is absolutely true for our bodies. Yet our bodies have this insane ability to be able to absorb tons and tons of crap that we feed it during our lifetime. And it is absolutely amazing on how much sugary content and hormone-induced food and GMOs and all the stuff that's typically bad for us that we eat. And we kind of live through it. But I want to just create an awareness. Now, a number of years ago, there was a scientist out of Japan, Dr. Emoto. Now, you might have heard of him and you might have seen talks and slides and stuff, but it's actually very, very interesting. What he did is he took water from various sources and he froze it down into single kind of droplets and instant freezing into ice crystals. And it is really important to note that this was done under a very clinical, scientific environment. But the water crystals, when they were frozen, created all these beautiful patterns. And it's interesting. So what he did, he thawed the water out and he refroze it, and the same crystal with the same pattern created. So it's a repeatable experiment. You thaw, you refreeze, same crystal, same formation. Different water created different water crystals. And so he started that investigation. And what he did is he took the same water, froze it, took a picture, and then he did a number of things to it. While it was thawed in water state, he played different musics to it. He subjected that water to certain music, and he also subjected it to certain words and language. And sometimes it was languages of love and encouragement, and sometimes it was languages of abuse and not so nice words. And then after that, he then refroze the crystals, the water into crystals, and then looked at them again. Now, this is a slight image of the research that he's done. And you can see there the same type of water from the same source exposed to different types of environments. So the thank you, the wisdom, the truth, the internal. Look how beautiful those crystals are. All right. And then we go to anger. I love you, beautiful crystal. Peace, you fool. All right. And here is the lower level is some interesting thing there, because it's all very well saying, well, we can subject water to certain things, but if you take polluted water, can you change the content of the crystal? And they did that. So they took polluted water out of a river and they subjected to prayer and then retook that crystal. And you can see the difference between the formation of the water crystal. Now, I don't want to get into too much, but I want you to reconsider the water that you drink. Now, here is an interesting learning. If we have glasses of water on the table when we have dinner, okay, or where we have it on our water bottles on our desk in the office, what type of language is that water hearing while it sits on your desk? Now, if you go back to where we were just looking, is that you can change the molecular structure probably not the right term. You can change the format, the energy of the water by sound waves, which means the conversation you're having at the dinner table, the conversations you're having at your desk, the conversations you're having with colleagues while you are holding water or anything that contains water, which is pretty much everything that we eat or drink. What impact does that have on that water before you glug it down your throat into your system? Just a thought. Just a thought. So another area of frequencies and areas that we should be considering would be our brain waves. Now, there are certain brain waves. You can plug your brain into a various electronic monitors and you can monitor the frequencies of your brain. But there are different brain states with different types of output and different types of mental states that we have. So we have this delta sleep, the deep sleep, that operates between kind of 1 hertz and 5 hertz. It's when we're in a deep sleep. It's when we're pretty much unconscious and we are not connected to our conscious bodies. So you don't feel pain, you don't feel anxiety, the emotions have left you, you're in that sleep state, and there is no conscious connection to the subconscious brain at that stage. Nice to be there on a cold winter's day. But we then have the theta state, which is kind of 4 to 8 hertz. And this is where we're in that semi-state of kind of awakeness just before you fall asleep or just before you fully wake up, where often a lot of dreams are happening that you remember and you kind of processing. It's my big aha area where I solve problems. And that's a lovely place to be, but it is very short-lived for the average person because you're in there for about 2 or 3 minutes as you transition between deep sleep and awakeness. But it is an area. Next time you wake up, try be more conscious of the process of you. If you're waking up naturally and not to an alarm clock beeping in your ear, then you go through that delta to theta to the conscious state. And the conscious states include a number of levels. We have the alpha state, which is the relaxed wakefulness, the calm, present, open. And this is what we call the flow state. It's where your brain is more creative, it's more innovative, and you're able to solve problems and kind of avoid stress. It's stress-free. Now, some of you listening to this and going like, what? Yes, people live in those states on a regular basis. And I want to share with you a little bit about that. Then we have the 3 betas. We have low beta, normal beta, and high beta. These are where we're operating normally during our day. It's kind of, oh, I'm okay, I'm thinking, I'm working, to I'm high stressed, I'm running around, I'm in a meeting, I'm doing a presentation, I'm preparing a document, I'm dealing with staff, I'm dealing with my boss, I'm dealing with myself, I'm late for the train, the bus is late. And those are all the states that we operate in, normal beta operation, and those go kind of 12 to 38 hertz. And then we have the high level state, the gamma state. This is a state that you are in when you're in the panic mode, when you're like, you know, all the toys are thrown out the cot and you're pulling at your hair and banging on the table and you're highly stressed, highly frustrated. It's also the state that you want a sports person to be in when they are playing 2020 cricket, when they're facing a ball. You want them to get to that state. It's the high heart rate, it's the high consciousness, everything works in slow motion, and you are able to operate well if you've practiced. If you're not a practiced gamma state person, it sounds like confusion, stress, high panic mode, anxiety, whatever you want to do. It's that often there where your brain starts shutting down and your consciousness disappears into subconscious fight or flight, freeze or faint mode. So those are your different states. Now it's interesting there that they have a frequency. So what if we could take those frequencies and we could then build sound waves for them to induce or control each of those states. Now, it's really interesting. A lot of people like to listen to certain type of music before they go into battle. That could be a speech, it could be a talk, it could be a presentation or a match if you're a sports person. And it could be any of those things. So it's really interesting. There's often on the market, and there's a lot of apps, they call them learning states or the alpha state or the various products that you can buy that have got this underlying frequency of those hertz. And then they overlay that with a music or a certain music tones and whale songs or heavy metal music, depends on where you want to induce people across there. And it's interesting is that you can physically transform your brain frequency with external impact. Like we can, someone walks into the room and immediately I'm going to go into high beta because they're an enemy, a frustrator in my life or whatever it is. But the science behind it enables you to play around with it. Now, if you don't want to play around with brain frequencies and you think it's a little freaky, well, the other indication of where we are is our heart and our heart rate, not necessarily our heart rate as in beats per minute, but what HeartMath does is it measures the modulation of the variation of our heart rate. Okay, now it's a little bit of a mathematical thing there, but if you look at a normal, heart rate monitor, it goes beep, beep, beep. We've all seen that, and we've all been plugged into this one machine like that sometime in our life. And what HeartMath have done is they've mathematized the heart rate. And we're able to see the difference. And on this slide, you can see on the left-hand side, if you plug yourself into a HeartMath machine, you can see that the left side there in the red is definitely high-stressed person operating in high beta, stressed out there. And you can learn through breathing, through exercises, through conscious control of your subconscious functions, like your heart rate. You can then control your body. So you often see sports people taking 3 deep breaths before they kick the ball, or they'll do a little thing, they'll juggle with a necklace that they've got, or they'll unbutton and rebutton their shirt, or they'll tighten play with the strings on their tennis racket. All those are mental science coping mechanisms to re-engage the state of being in the zone, getting your brain into a certain state of focus, getting into that flow or getting into that high state, because ultimately you cannot necessarily play a high activity game in an alpha state. But you want to put yourself into a gamma state, in a conscious gamma state, if you want to hit a ball coming at you at, 100 kilometers an hour. So you need to be able to do that, but you can induce that and you can measure that using a HeartMath rate. If you're interested in any of these things, any of the science, or if you want to plug yourself into a machine and see how you do, or listen to some good music to alter your brain state, I'd love to have a conversation with you. You can find me and connect me using this QR code, scan it, it'll add my details to your phone and go make an appointment. I'd love to have a chat with you. Or if you've got any new science that is yet discovered by me and my team, then we'd love to have that conversation. So my name is Bruce Wade, looking forward to a heart-filled, well-frequency day ahead of you. Thank you very much.